Hello, everyone. This is Richard Kazami, and this is the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association monthly meeting. We appreciate you joining us, and we're looking forward to an interesting meeting today. Our presenters include Noguchi Museum, Justin Baez, our Congresswoman, Carolyn Maloney, the Variety Boys and Girls Club, Renovations, Costa, Constantanides, and for the New York City DOT, John O'Neill. As everyone knows, who's probably been on this in the past, you have the ability to ask questions or make comments. If you're viewing this streaming on YouTube or on Facebook, just put it in chat on either one of those, and it will appear on our screens here of the panelists. And if you have a question, I, as a moderator, will ask a question of the presenter. So feel free to do so at any time. This is going to be an interesting meeting. God willing, this will be our last purely virtual meeting. We're hoping to start again in September with a hybrid of virtual and live, like we did for many years. It'd be great to go back to live. Things are looking very positive now. So this will be our last meeting for this. I'm going to take 2 months off, well-deserved, I think, for July and August, and we'll be back in September. I'd like to start this meeting with bringing up a cultural institution that's world-renowned, and it's located in Old Astoria. Cultural and performance, as you know, has been very important to us. Every month we have had a different presenter come on since the pandemic started, as we wanted to offer as many opportunities as we can to performing artists and different artists to continue to work and continue to share. So now that things are opening up, we'd like to bring in the Noguchi Museum, Sama Niguchi representative, and that representative is Justin Baez. Justin, would you please join us? Thank you. Justin has just joined Niguchi. He's joining our neighborhood. He's becoming part of our family. We really appreciate it. So, Justin, take it away.
Hey, as Richard said, my name is Justin Baez. I'm the media coordinator at the Noguchi Museum. As he said, I just started back in the spring. And I'm here to sort of just tell you guys a few of the exhibitions, programs, and some of the updates the museum has had since the pandemic, and as we're sort of exiting sort of the more serious times of the pandemic. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here for this presentation. So as Richard said, the Noguchi Museum is the home of Japanese-American artist Isamu Noguchi's work. We are currently open. We're very grateful for being open and for all the work that our staff and our visitor services have been able to pull through throughout the pandemic. We're open Wednesday through Sunday from 11 to 6 p.m. with an intermittent break between 2 and 3. And Monday and Tuesday we're closed. As far as admission, you can still reserve tickets online at neguchi.org /visit. Ticket prices are listed here, but tickets are free every day with ID for members, children under 12, public school students, visitors with disabilities, active duty military and their family, and individuals with SNAP benefits. So then I wanted to also go through, as I said, some of our programs and exhibitions. We're very proud of the 3 exhibitions that I'm going to be showing today. So the first is Christian Boltansky's Animetas. And as it says here, Boltansky's Soundworks Animetas are currently filling the Noguchi Museum's garden with the music of lost souls. So there are these bells that are hung ornately throughout the museum's garden. And they, when the wind blows, they reproduce as a beautiful sound that is connected to a bunch of Boltansky's other installations that he has made across the world, sort of this interconnected spiritual experience. Then we have Noguchi's Useless Architecture, a collection of works where Noguchi explored attempting to create a social purpose for sculpture and imbue sort of those architectural qualities into sculpture. As you can see here, it's a very interactive exhibition. And next we have Noguchi's Memorials to the Atomic Dead. This is two installations in our building, a collection of works from the permanent collection, and proposals that memorialize the use of atomic weapons in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and beyond. So all these works were created with the purpose of memorializing the dropping of the atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And so those are exhibitions that we currently have. As far as programs for our teenagers, for specifically our rising juniors and seniors, we have Making Your Mark, which is a summer program running from July 5th to the 29th. This program will be featuring Tanda Francis, whose work you can see here, Rocket Black. And students will essentially be learning to create community-oriented public artworks, looking through Noguchi's collection for inspiration, and also looking towards contemporary artists such as Tanda Francis. Next, we've been able to hold a good amount of virtual programs ranging from virtual tours for adults who are blind or have low vision. We've also done these close analysis workshops where participants look closely at scenes from the museum and sort of analyze the works that way. And we also are attempting to integrate more programs into our social media. So tomorrow from 6 to 6:45 p.m., I'm going to be interviewing James Yang, author and illustrator of the children's book, A Boy Named Nisamu. And we're going to be talking about, themes such as double API representation, creativity, and individuality. And speaking of social media, we recently reached 100,000 followers on our Instagram and are hoping to do a live Q&A for that. So we're really proud of that and hope that you guys can take part in that and join the museum as well. And then another thing that we're really proud of is our Bloomberg Connect integration. So with this, visitors to the museum are able to learn more about the art. They'll have access to the archive on their phones, and we'll have a comprehensive map of all the works inside of the museum and all the gallery exhibitions that we hold. And that's my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We have a cornucopia of exhibitions and programs to come in the fall and in the coming days. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Justin, if you would like to, if you could put into private chat so we can transpose it in the comments, any links or any information you think that would help the audience reach out to Niguchi, I think that would be great if you could do that. And again, we really appreciate you joining us. Are there any plans to start the music series that they used to have in the garden?
Yeah. So give me 1 second. Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're definitely planning on bringing that back. I'm trying to like remember the name of it.
It was a great series.
Yeah, the Bang in a Can series. Yeah, so we are planning on bringing that back this summer, and we'll have more information on that in the coming days.
Okay, great, good. Okay, well, let's see. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, and again, you're such a great institution, great part of our community, and we are looking forward to the institution of a oldest story of waterfront arts district at some point, and we're looking forward to developing that. It's been one of the goals of OANA, since we do have a lot of interesting cultural institutions. So I hope that within the next year or two, we get that up and running, and we look forward to it. Thank you so much, Justin.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, thanks. Bye. Okay. We are privileged at this point to have joining us from Washington, D.C., our Congressperson, Carolyn Maloney. Carolyn?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Richard. And I'm the privileged one to be able to join you tonight to share a quick update on what I and the Democrats are working for in Congress. I'm at my office right now. If you look out the window, there's a picture of the Capitol. You can see the Capitol from my office, which is really terrific. But there's a blare. It doesn't seem to show up now. But first, I want to thank you, Richard Kuzami, for inviting me to this online gathering of the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association. I've been hoping to get a chance to join you for quite a while, and I'm glad that we finally got it going. This organization represents a very, very important part of Congressional District 12 that I have the honor of representing, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last several years and working with you on some of our really critical local projects. Richard and your association pushed hard for the establishment of the new ferry service between 90th Street in Manhattan and Hallett's Cove in Astoria, Queens. Right there at Astoria Houses, I got the first $3 million in federal money for the ferry, but it's been great to see it grow and improve. And with the support of the mayor, EDC, community leaders like Richard, Claudia Koger, president of the Astoria Houses Tenants Association, we all pushed for it, all the electeds and everyone else. It takes a village to make something happen. We finally got it done. And what's the result? A journey requiring multiple subways and buses and lasting more than an hour has been cut to an enjoyable 4-minute boat ride, linking two very vital parts of my district, which are also in the city council districts of my friends Ben Kalos and Costa Constantanides. Recently, he left the city council to take over leadership of the Variety Boys and Girls Club of Queens. And I'm excited to see he'll be speaking tonight too. I've worked closely with the Variety Boys and Girls Club, and when they put up their affordable senior housing, I got a federal grant to help with the Malone houses there with the Boys and Girls Club. And also the Hannock buildings that are the senior housing. I've gotten 202 grants to help them build the senior housing. These leaders also have joined forces with me in getting the work started on the long overdue repairs to the seawall that borders Hallett's Cove, a structure which is in a dangerous state of decay. This is a joint federal and city effort with the Federal Army Corps of Engineers doing a lot of the research and funding and helping, and along with partnering with the mayor's office to finally get that repaired. I want to say that one of the biggest bills I've ever voted for was President Biden's American Rescue Plan. It had 1.9 trillion emergency response package for the health and economic crisis in our country brought by the coronavirus. And it also had over $100 billion going to the great city of New York, money directly to our MTA, directly to citizens with a $1,400 grant. We did extremely well with the PPP program that was a sort of loan forgiveness program to small businesses. But on top of all of that, President Biden has also announced his American Families Plan and American Jobs Plan. Both are important to ensure that we build back better and stronger from the coronavirus, and taking a whole of government look at what we can do to help families and bring our nation's and cities' infrastructure into the 21st century. I'd say that tomorrow I'm having a hearing on part of that plan, which is a bill that I've done that is part of the American Families Plan that would give paid leave for the birth of a child and sick leave for families. So that bill will be going through my committee. The aid to cities and states completely across the whole country went through my committee also. I'm working in the infrastructure plan, and I haven't been successful yet. I'm having a lot of resistance, but makes incredible sense to me that that we build a entrance into the Sunnyside Yards for what's called the LIRR Queens Connector. It brings the LIRR right through Queens, right into Grand Central. But there's no stop in Queens. I find that criminal. It would increase the quality of life. It would be an economic boost to the area. And I'm working very hard to try to get that into the jobs plan that we're going to be trying to move pretty soon. So the American Families Plan recognizes the family as part of the infrastructure of America. It's very important to me. I was almost fired in several jobs because I had a baby. You know, they didn't think you should ever work or you should leave or you should be fired if you had a baby. But a lot of that has changed. You don't get fired if you have a child now. And it's going to create a long overdue comprehensive paid family and medical leave program. The one for the federal employees, which is roughly 2.6 million people, goes through my committee. It goes through another committee in another place. It also provides 4 years of free education for all students by ensuring a universal quality preschool for all 3- and 4-year-olds. We've already implemented that in Queens. I was able to get the money in the budget for that, and I'm thrilled about it. And it also extends the expanded health insurance tax credits in the American Rescue Plan, and it extends the child care tax credit for roughly $300 a month, which allows you to help pay for child care and other expenses for children. So I'm excited about this really big American jobs plan. It's big, it's bold, it's a green infrastructure plan, and what we've been waiting for. And I'm wondering if your members know that we received a C- on our infrastructure report card for New York. That's not even a passing grade. I'm a former teacher. That's pretty lousy. But we are going to improve it to an A with this American Jobs Plan. It will invest over $115 billion in repairing roads and bridges. And I don't know if you noticed, a bridge literally collapsed in Washington, D.C. today, showing the need for this. It'll modernize our transportation system with an $85 billion investment and invest more than $200 billion to increase housing supply, address the affordable housing crisis, upgrade low-income homes to make them more energy efficient. And this legislation will improve our streets, subway, quality of life. It really can pave the way to bring our infrastructure in the 21st to the 21st century. And we need it. I also want to remind everybody that the first thing I did as a congresswoman is get $300 million to connect Queensbridge with the F train to 63rd Street in Manhattan, which was another way to connect Queens to Manhattan, which I think was important. As Richard knows, I now chair the Oversight Committee. I've been working to hold Big Pharma accountable by investigating the high cost of prescription drugs and the opioid crisis. And we will be passing Intro 3, which will allow the government to negotiate to get lower drug prices. The Senate companion to this bill has been introduced. I'm also working on advancing a bipartisan postal reform bill that will modernize the post office, put it on firmer financial settings and footing to help move it to the 21st century. And I have senators that are backing it. Senators Portman and Peters. I believe we have the votes in the Senate to pass it. So I'm working on a lot of different fronts and making progress and getting things done to improve our country, the quality of life of our citizens. And I just want to thank you for having me. You can get my newsletter by signing up through maloney.house.gov, or you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Rep Maloney, on Facebook at Carolyn Maloney. We're going to put all these contacts into the chat so that you have it and so that we can get in better touch with each other. Right now, I'd be willing, Richard, to take any questions if anybody has any questions. Again, thank you for having me. I love Astoria. It's one of the most historic and beautiful places in all of the metropolitan area, the 5 boroughs, and I love visiting it. We have gorgeous parks right on the water, and we need to keep working to make it even better. And that's what I've been working on with Richard. We did finally get our ferry line, but we need to get our line into the East Side Connector. It goes right through Queens. There's not a stop in Queens. I find that scandalous. And I think that that's what I'm pushing very hard for. They say that none of the formulas, it doesn't fit into any of the funding formulas. We'll change the formulas. Right, Richard? We got to figure out how to get that done. Anyway, I'll take any questions, okay? Any questions?
You have actually presenting later the DOT, actually, while they're not directly responsible for some of the things you're talking about, I'm sure that they could weigh in, and I think that they would probably think of all this as a big positive also. So they'll be joining us later. And yes, and thank you so much for joining us. I have a couple of questions, and one of them is, basically, I want to know what it's like working in Washington now compared to the days when Obama was president, and how things have changed. How have you felt about working with your fellow congresspeople? Is it improving now? Are you able to get more done? How has it changed over the years?
Well, I think the big difference is between President Biden and President Trump. And obviously, we wouldn't be getting the American Rescue Plan and all the infrastructure money with President Trump. So there's a big, big difference. Plus the American Family Plan that President Biden is proposing. It's a very exciting time to be in Congress because we control the House, the presidency, and the Senate. So you can actually get things done. And to give an example, we've had a bill in for roughly 20 years for Juneteenth. And this happened last week. Last week on, I guess it was Wednesday night, they finally got the votes in the Senate to pass Juneteenth, making it a federal national holiday. And they got 18 votes that was allowed us to pass it without a filibuster. So they passed it roughly in the middle of the night. They called my office and my staff and said, go in and get on the bill. Let's get it put in good shape and get it to the floor the next day on Thursday. And let's see if we can pass it in the House. And then they're saying Biden was over in Geneva. And then they called him and said, let's come back and sign it. So with all three, you could get it done. So what happened, I had the honor of leading the debate on it on the floor because I chaired the committee that did the work that got the bill to the floor, and then had the honor of being invited to the White House to see President Biden. And everybody was so ecstatic. There was this woman named Opal who was like 94 years old and had walked across America in support of Juneteenth. And some of the Republicans were arguing against it. I said, how can you be against it? This is a celebration of ending slavery. If you're for slavery, then vote against the bill. But if you're for ending slavery, you should be voting with us to really recognize that this was a positive step forward for the values of America. Anyway, it passed overwhelmingly by far. Only 15 Republicans voted against it. Don't ask me why. And then I came back and we had some wonderful ceremonies in Queens and in Brooklyn for Juneteenth that recognized this day. That would never have happened with a Republican presidency or whatever. And the fact that we were able to move it so fast was so exciting. But what I really have enjoyed is the American Rescue Plan, which brought so much money to our city. We needed it. We suffered tremendously under COVID. It did have $20 billion in it for vaccines. We are now in New York at 70%. I have worked very hard with Richard and others to get vaccine pop-ups at Astoria houses, Ravenswood, and also at Queensbridge. We have it in many of the pharmacies throughout Old Astoria and Long Island City. So we've had pretty good response in getting people vaccinated and having the sites there. Also, the so-called floating hospital that has various offices in our area. I think they're a wonderful health facility. It's one of my projects. I fund them and have helped them expand any way I can because they are providing health services and did provide 20, like everyday vaccination sites that people could just walk in and get their vaccination for free in Queens. So it's better when you have your team in, and
Oh, yeah.
and that I want to continue to break down what this American Rescue Plan means for Queens. I mean, I could talk all day on it. It's just deep, it's strong, and I just want to start doing a series of sort of smaller reports that'll let people see what it's meant to their lives to have it.
Well, it's great, and it must be inspiring to you to actually have ideas and actually have them acted on and actually come into fruition after being blocked for so many years.
Yeah, right.
What do you think about the filibuster in the Senate and the controversy over whether that should continue to exist?
Personally, I think it's very undemocratic and it should be abolished. Mm-hmm. We have a very important bill called H.R. 1, which we cannot get through without the filibuster being abolished. And it is voting rights, protecting voting rights. And it's very important. It's public financing for campaigns. It's, getting, rid of conflicts of interest and taking, waste, fraud, and abuse out of government. It's a very, very important bill. So so far we haven't been able to pass that because of the hated filibuster. And that's why Juneteenth was so exciting. We finally got 18 votes. We could do it. We did it. We moved it the next day to the House, had Biden changed all his plans and just flew back immediately so he could sign it. And then Friday, everybody had Friday off to celebrate Juneteenth. That was exciting.
Great. One other thing I know that can affect us locally here is that, and I know that your office reached out to us and to probably the whole community here, was the reinstitution of earmarks on a certain level when they're looking for particular projects, capital projects locally, that you, through the Congress, may be able to help fund. I think it's a great program, which hasn't really happened yet. I know it's being developed now, but it's exciting, and we like to see things like that. So.
Well, absolutely. I funded the floating hospital with the earmark. Also, the Kosciuszko Bridge that started out as an earmark and ended up being $800 million. That's the bridge. Used to be the worst bridge in the whole state. Now it's the best. It's beautiful. It's lit up at night, and it connects the Queens and the Brooklyn area of my district. And it's really beautiful. And then we have a decrepit old subway line between Manhattan and Brooklyn called the L train. And the $1 billion that ended up modernizing that also started out as an earmark. So I like earmarks. I think earmarks allow us to get things done, and I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think that they also provide a currency to get things done in Washington too, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
So, thank you so much. Let me check if there's any messages here. We haven't, okay. Let me see. There's a question here about from Jeff Martin. Okay. Hi, Representative Maloney. I'm wondering what funding has been allocated in the proposed infrastructure bill for conversion to renewables. As you know, we have 2 fossil fuel plants in Astoria, Long Island City, and would like to push renewable infrastructure to close those plants and reclaim the waterfront. Plans such as renewable Rikers proposed by Costa.
I think it's an absolutely fabulous idea what Costa was pushing for the renewable for Rikers. And I would like to have some hearings in Queens and actually in Manhattan. You know, they're putting they're just building too many plants. It's not like they're going in the wrong direction. They want to build more plants, not take them down. So we really have to reverse that and figure out how to work on that. That's something that I need to work on, and I want to thank him, Jeff Martin, for raising it. I asked my office to try to look at a hearing this summer in Queens and Manhattan on the proposed plants and the particles, that the health risks that they have. That right by those plants in Queens, they call it Asthma Alley because so many kids have asthma. And I think it's totally connected to those power plants and the particles that they emit. And I couldn't agree with you more that it's something we need to do. We need to close them down and reclaim the waterfront. We have this beautiful waterfront, and we at Astoria Park, we use it, and we did refurbish the park by Queensbridge. That was terrible. It was all, you couldn't get to the waterfront, and it was all blocked off. And with the mayor and also federal funds, we were able to build a pier and reclaim the waterfront there. Slowly, we're working to make that happen. But I love the renewable Rikers proposal that Costa has put forward. And I just hope we can all work on it and try to make it happen. Do I have the idea of how to do it right now? Right now, I'm just basically pushing to keep them to stop opening up more plants. They keep coming in with more plants. They say they're safe. They're not safe. They're not safe. We're overburdened. We have too many. And I think that maybe I should pass a bill that says you can't have more than one in an hour in a mile radius. We have 3 or 4 in a mile radius, and pushing for more. I mean, it's outrageous. It's something we've got to get a coordinated plan against.
I'm glad to see that they are doing renewables now with the wind farms that are proposed, off of our shores in Long Island and in Brooklyn. So, we're on the first few steps of a long road, but, we're making the first steps, which is great. Another question has to do here with a topic of transportation. The FAA has put on hold the air train to LaGuardia, and they're asking if you would advocate for a more sensible solution, like an N train extension. I have to say that people have different views on that. I think our association has a slightly different view, but it's something that is federal in terms of it has to be approved by the FAA. They're also asking if you can make sure any infrastructure plan is a better balance between highway and transit funds than the current 80-20 split. So, and they also want a Metro North stop in Astoria.
A Metro North stop in Astoria. Okay.
I'm not sure about that either, but.
Well, first of all, you got to get everybody together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to get everybody together. Now, there was a plan for out to the airport, and it was blown up. The community didn't want it. So you got to get together. It's certainly not going to happen if the community doesn't want it.
And that was back in 2000 when I first joined the community board. They were discussing extending the N line.
Yeah. And Claire Schulman was pushing it. Remember?
Yep. And
then it got blown up. The community didn't want it. So I mean, I feel like it's very hard to get federal dollars, but it's impossible to get it if the community's fighting. You know what I'm saying? They won't if they're getting mixed messages where. Say, I may be saying the community wants it and you're saying you don't want it. Believe me, that'll kill the project right there. So I think the proper place for this to be decided is the community board. And if they can come up with what exactly they want. And if everybody agrees, I'll go to bat for it. But I don't want to go to bat for something and then find out that half the community hates it. You see what I'm saying? Because I mean, I've been here long enough. I've seen when there's disagreement, it never gets funded.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to get on board, and that has to come from the community. That can't come from me. It's got to come from the people that live in Old Astoria on what they particularly want for transit. You know, the one thing I've never gotten anything pushback on is a stop in Sunnyside Yards. Everybody seems to agree with that. But when you get into the airport deal, it gets complicated. So, Richard, it's up to you. You're on the community board. You tell me what it is. Tell me what it is the board wants, and I'll go to work for it. But I got to get a clear message.
Well,
Even today you're saying, I don't know if I agree with that. So.
I'm not actually speaking for the community board here. This is just OANA. I do not speak for the board. And I think that it would be great to put together another visioning session along these lines to see what we can look forward to doing. Perhaps a combination of both state, federal, and city input together with the community. Maybe it's something we can work towards in the coming fall after I take my well-deserved vacation. And we will definitely send that information out to you, and you can run with it and get us a touchdown.
Okay. Let's plan for a touchdown. I've got another Zoom coming up, so I gotta say bye-bye. Keep inviting me. I'd love to come back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye. Okay. Thank you. By the way, I would say this on the question about the air train. One of the big concerns we have, and nothing is for sure, but we do have a concern over the fact that if you do the N train extension, you end up with having to have an eminent domain situation. And also, if the current program is going through Willets Point, that's what they're trying to develop. And as a matter of fact, we're not even necessarily in favor of that. We think more like Jamaica Station would make more sense because you have a lot of subways feeding into the line and the Long Island Railroad. The N line is very restricted as to number of ways to get to that line. And we also need to consider that a lot of people from Long Island from Long Island itself would like to be able to take the Long Island Railroad and take that to the air train, which could be done over Jamaica Station or Willets Point. There's a lot of, I understand people, logically it seems like the N line makes the most sense, but I do come from a transportation background, and sometimes the shortest distance between two spots is not the most efficient and not the quickest. So anyway, that's something for next year. I'd like to bring up now a very good friend of mine, and we miss him already in the city council, but he's instead turned his abilities towards helping our young people and towards the building up of the Variety Boys and Girls Club. If Costa Constantanides is available, could he come on board?
Hey,
Costa.
Richard. Hey, Richard, how are you?
Good. How are you?
So great to see you. So great to be here at OANA again. Thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, where are you?
I am in Manhattan. I unfortunately had an event that ended up getting dropped on my schedule at the last minute, but I'm thrilled to be with you guys and thrilled to be able to talk about the great things that are happening at the Boys and Girls Club.
Perfect. Okay, well, take it away, my friend.
All right, well, first, I just want to thank you, Richard, and really to thank everyone. I mean, I'll just take a step back and say, serving this community as the council member for the last 7+ years was really the honor of my life. And every day I woke up and tried to do the best that I could. And I really, you may not have always agreed with me. And, as Ed Koch said, if you agree with me 12 times out of 12, we both have to get our heads checked. So, I mean, I'm glad that sometimes we could disagree and have conversations. And not everything I did, everyone agreed with, but I just know that I try to do the best I could every day. So I just thank everyone for their support. Thank everyone for being a partner over the years. Thank you, Richard, for being a great friend and a great partner in my time in elective office. But one of the big things I learned is that you don't need to be in elective office to do public service. And you're serving the public in running OANA. And now as the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club on 21st Street, we have this amazing opportunity to serve 4,000 young people go through our doors every single year. We run an after-school program at PS 70, at the Academy of the City, at IS-10, so, and additionally at our own site on 21st. So we're serving 4,000 kids a year, and our goal with the new building, and really the new building is just a shell, right? I look at this as a lighthouse. Every child in Queens, this is their home. We're looking to go from 4,000 young people served to 15,000 young people served. That's the number I hope everyone walks away with from tonight, is that we're looking to serve, because right now we're kind of in a place where we're outgrowing our shell. The place that we are now is an amazing facility, but we need to be able to serve more kids, and be able to do that, we just don't have enough space. So we're going to go from serving 4,000 kids to serving 15,000 kids. So I don't know if you have the schematics, if you can share the screen.
Yes, I think, Victor, can you bring that up?
And I can kind of talk through some of the schematics here.
And if you turn your phone the other direction, we can get a full shot of you. Perfect.
Okay, there you go.
Beautiful. Good. Mm-hmm.
All right. So once I see, let me know when the screen comes up, when Victor's able to share.
Mm-hmm.
But really, then, what we're looking to do here is, build a location that'll serve build the first planetarium in Queens, have a 1,000-seat arena, have a Olympic-sized swimming pool in our aquatic center. So there's the design. You can see right here on the little bubble on top. It's gonna be the first planetarium in Queens, 1,000-seat sports arena, Olympic-sized swimming pool, having the BioBus at the BioBus Batcave Lab, a 200-seat black box theater for dance and for music, computer labs, STEM labs, renewable energy, solar, battery storage. Oh, and by the way, all the apartments are going to be 100% affordable. Not like, fake affordable, but, 200 out of 253 units are going to be, 60 AMI or below. So we're talking about, 2-bedroom for like $1,200. And, for most of the units there. And on top of that, 30% of the units will be set aside for kids aging out of foster care. And there'll be wraparound services for the young people that are aging out of foster care. So this building is really going to be a unicorn. Something that is special, that is nowhere else in Queens or in New York City, is going to have all these elements. If we can go to the next slide. Just talks a little bit, we've been in the community since 1955, as you all know. We've been able to, serve those 4,000 kids, after school programs, sports, STEM, homework help. You can see a little bit of, we have the teaching kitchen. So you see a little bit of that here. If we go on to the next slide. So you'd see a little bit our pool on the sort of the bottom level. It's going to be, we're going from, where we are currently to about 100,000 square feet. 4 of the floors are going to be for the Boys and Girls Club. So you have the pool and the aquatic center, where you're going to have the Olympic-sized swimming pool and the wading pool, along with the teen center and other other spots. You'll see the basketball studio layered on top, with the 175-seat theater and black box studio, universal pre-K and daycare. So we'll have education space as well. If we go on to the next slide, we'll have a cafeteria and a teaching kitchen, educational space for a potential school. We'll have more science labs and computer labs. If you go on to the next slide, 65-seat first planetarium in Queens, classroom space, including an art studio, STEM labs, media labs, and all this right here in our backyard, right here in the backyard of OANA. If you go on to the next slide. So this is this is what it looks like from our lobby. So you'll be able to see into the swimming pool, be able to look up into, look up to the actual 1,000-seat arena. Everything's going to be glass, but it's going to be passive house design, so it'll be energy efficient. So we're not adding to a carbon footprint, with the goal of having it be 100% electric, carbon neutral. We go on to the next slide. The 1,000-seat arena. So if OANA needs a location to meet, we can be your home. If the elected official like the mayor comes and says, I want to have a town hall in Astoria, we can be that host with no problem, being able to provide it for free. We're not in the business of money. We're in the business of working with the community and being a partner. We want to be everyone's partner. We're not in this to like, the only two things we charge for. We charge for our summer program, which is still a bargain, $1,000 for 7 weeks. And, we have for the Learn to Swim program. But after school is completely free. If someone needs to use our facility, it's completely free. We're not in the business of charging. This is about being a community space and being something that can be a partner and a good neighbor in our community. We go on to the next slide. And there's our view from 30th Road and 21st Street. So you see what we're attempting to accomplish here. And we're going to have like a sort of really robust incubator space where local businesses will be able to come in. Bear Burger, for example, who's one of our partners, will come in for a year and open a Bear Burger on 21st Street. Mm-hmm. And we'll have the kids from our club working there because we're providing them very low rent. So the kids, they'll be working there, learning how to run a business, learning how Bear Burger works. And then in a year, Bear Burger will close. And then Chip, another one of our partners, will come in. And we'll have Chip Cookie Company on 21st Street for a year. And then that'll close after that. And then we'll have a renewable energy company come out and, teach that. So we're going to be teaching our young people job training and college readiness through our teen center and through these programs. So we have a lot going on here at the Boys and Girls Club. And it's something that, when I was elected in public office back in 2013, I know it feels like a lifetime ago, I really spoke about how I want to be judged on what happens west of 21st Street. Well, now in my new role as CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Queens, again, I want you to judge me what happens west of 21st Street. We have 3 of the largest public housing developments. We have the entirety of the Oana area in our catchment area for the Boys and Girls Club. My mission is to provide after-school programming and support for our kids in our community. That's the mission of the Boys and Girls Club. That's what we're looking to do. And I'm looking forward to continuing to be great partners as we do this exciting building and this exciting expansion.
Great. This has been a great metamorphosis. I guess a great change that I've seen down there, and it's glad to see you spearheading it. It sort of fits in what you've always done for our community. I have a question for you. What's the senior housing? That's going to stay, right? There's not going to be any changes there, right?
Oh, absolutely, it's going to stay. I mean, our mission is to serve the neighborhood. I think we may even do more there. We're in talks right now. I can't get too into it, but we are looking to have a more robust senior outreach there at the senior building, maybe even have a senior center. So we're very invested in that building because it fits our mission. From our youngest to our oldest, the Boys and Girls Club is supposed to provide support and take critical support for programming in our neighborhood. That's our mission. That's what we're going to continue to do. So have no worry that the senior building is not going to change. It's only going to get better.
One question, can you have a general idea of where the funding comes from for the projects like these? These are amazing projects.
A lot of different sources. A lot of it's already secured. Mm-hmm. So there will be a capital campaign launch at a certain point, but we've secured most of the funding already. And I was really excited that about 2 weeks ago, Donovan Richards actually announced at one of our events that he's providing $5 million towards our redevelopment in this year's budget. So we're already $5 million into our, redevelopment plan, in addition to the money we've already secured. So, but I mean, the big number I want to walk away from is, again, the money doesn't mean as much. We're going to have the money. It's going to happen. We're going to go from serving 4,000 kids in our community to 15,000 kids. Mm-hmm. That's the number that's going to matter the most. Of all the numbers we can talk about today, serving 15,000 kids in our new building, that's going to be a big boon for Western Queens.
I have a question from Dory Kokoros. The Boys and Girls
Dory.
Club.
Missed you.
Is very exciting. What's the timeline?
So our timeline, we're looking to break ground in 23, and we're going to look to finish in 26. So we're on a 5-year plan. So if you ask me, where do you see yourself in 5 years, Costa? I will tell you, I'll be standing out in front of our brand new building, cutting a ribbon in 5 years. So when anyone asks me that question now granted, God if you want God to laugh, you tell him your plans. But our plan right now is to break ground in 2 years and to finish in 5 years and to have this amazing facility to serve our kids up and running in 5 years.
What about in the interim during construction, where will you be holding your events and things like that? Do you have arrangements for that?
We have, we have our community schools at 112. We're going to be at IS 10. We're going to be at PS 70 at AOC. We're also going to have some swing space. So we're going to be shifting a lot of our programming to our school-based programs during the construction period.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, and again from Dory, good luck in your new role. I'm sure you'll do great.
Thank you, Dory.
If anybody has any other questions, if you put them in the chat right away. If not right now, you can always reach out to us or reach out to Costa. Costa, if you have any, you want to have something put in the chat regarding.
Yeah, man. So my email is really simple. It's my first name. It's Costa@varietyboysandgirlsclub.org. Perfect.
Okay, great. Costa, thank you so much. I hope too bad you weren't able to stick around, because we're now talking about the renovation of 21st Street, which is integral to what's going on within your facility. It's all part of the same basket. So we are looking forward to it. I will say one thing: 21st Street is certainly coming a long way since its days as the barrier of redlining in this neighborhood.
Yes, it has.
Yep.
Look, you and I stood out there with my first press conference as a council member back in January of 2014. We were freezing our butts off, standing out there calling for, to fix 21st Street. So the fact that we're able to see this task force now and to come for fruition and be able to do a lot of really good things and make it less into a highway and more like a street that we all live on, then, we've moved the conversation in the right direction. So thank you, Richard, and everyone at AONA for the partnership. And I'm going to be part of that. The Boys and Girls Club is part of that task force. So you're going to see me. I missed the last meeting because Nico had a baseball game. And, I have to be a dad, but I'll be on those Zoom calls. You'll see me.
Okay. Well, God willing, in another few months, it won't be a Zoom call anymore. But
it's very strange not being on Zoom calls anymore. I look forward to seeing everyone in person in the fall.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. Have a great one.
Great one. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. And listen, I appreciate everybody's input on this. I see that we're still seeing quite a bit of talk about the air train. That is something that I think that we can discuss, and maybe we can do an event on that. We'll see. Also, a message from Paul DiPietro says, will there ever be a stage built by the diving pool? Actually, I was quite involved in that because I was the parks chair during that time period on the community board. Regretfully, the funding disappeared for various reasons. So at this point, as far as I know, what we see is what we got. There won't be a stage built currently. Though I will say that a good part is that what's built there will not stop a stage from being built at some point. So if the funding comes available, like everything else, hopefully we'll be able to take care of that, because it would be a great thing to have another stage, another performance space in the park. Dedication for the '64 Summer Olympics. This, I'm not exactly sure about. I know that there was Olympics there in the 30s. I'm not sure about '64, but anyways, I think that was one that we were attempting to get. I think the mayor then wanted us to get it. I could be wrong though, but anyways, I'd like to bring out now a very important presenter that will really affect our quality of life in our neighborhood to a very large degree, and it's something that I'm pleased to see that the DOT, the Department of Transportation, is doing outreach as they should do. There have been discussions towards somehow, in some way, expediting the bus service, and I think that there's a lot of very interesting ideas out there. This is the beginning of a journey. It's just getting ideas out there, but I'd like to present, and also beyond that, there's a lot of other DOT activities happening in our neighborhood. We also deal with everything from, filling potholes, lighting, the other streets, safety controls, traffic controls. There's many, many things that DOT deals with. So every year we do bring out our local representative for this district, and John O'Neill, if he could join us, and he can answer various questions about everything from 21st Street to potholes. John, I hope you found it interesting so far, and thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Richard. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me tonight. My name is John O'Neill. I'm your borough planner. I cover a number of community boards for the Queensborough Commissioner's Office of the New York City Department of Transportation. But one of those is Community Board 1, and I work a good deal in the Old Astoria neighborhood with Richard. Richard has been, he's certainly a community representative and somebody who's always keen to bring us issues to work on, from the minutiae you just mentioned, things like potholes and street lighting concerns, to adding a voice to larger form projects like the one that we're in the early stages of visioning on 21st Street. So tonight, I'll talk about 21st Street, and then I'll talk about a couple of other things we're working on in Old Astoria. And then after that, if there are any questions or comments, I'm happy to take those in the chat. And, Richard, you can suss out what you want me to speak to if there's anything else. Mm-hmm. So on 21st Street, this was at the urging of Councilmember Costa Constantanides, former council member who we just saw. He had essentially, he reached out to New York City DOT and said, 21st Street, it's a thoroughfare. It continues to operate like an arterial, and I would like to see calming and an improvement to the existing transit service on the street. Obviously, last year with the fiscal crisis that the city and the country went through, the BQX is not going to be the focus on 21st Street any longer. Right now, we are talking about improving bus service and working on a general safety-oriented redesign of the street, and one that will hopefully increase the quality of life along the corridor. And so what we've done is, at the council members' urging, we put together a group called the Community Advisory Board. And that's a panel of community members selected by members of the community board, Councilmember Van Bramer, Councilmember Constantanides, your assembly member, Zoran Mamdani, Senator Janaris's office, and others who brought forward, these are the people we should be talking to in the initial planning stages for 21st Street. Now, I read earlier in the comments a colorfully named commentator who had some, comments about just the general outreach process. I think it's important to state that we are in the very early stages of planning here. But I think even in the 3 community advisory board meetings that we've had so far, everybody seems to be in concurrence that there is a need to improve transit service. There is a need to improve safety conditions and to try and crack down on various illegal behaviors here, from sidewalk parking to speeding. We've looked at the crash data. There's a significant amount of data here in terms of the number of people who've been hit, the number of vehicular crashes we've had, fatalities, serious injuries. So looking at that, we're looking at a portion of 21st Street between Hoyt Avenue South down to Queens Plaza South. And in the first 3 meetings, we've been brought a number of kind of community-based concerns, and we've been working to incorporate those as we come up with a couple of conceptual ideas, which we hope to bring back in the fall, a little better tailored with some more data, and bring back to the community. And we will be holding a public meeting. We'll probably hold a couple more of these community advisory board meetings. And then the intention would be to bring it to the Community Board 1 Transportation Committee, vet it there, and get their feedback as well. But I think it's rare that we have a constant or kind of a uniform opinion of something needs to change on 21st Street. And I think we're there. So it's an interesting project to work on. And at the last meeting, and this is public record. So Richard, I would ask if you can include the DOT link. There's a copy of the full presentation, which was given in June. Tonight, we'll go through the 3 options that we're considering at this moment. And Richard, if you're able to pull those up on the screen.
Victor, could you do so? Okay?
Okay,
And you can
perfect.
put a link for the entire presentation and put that into the chat for everybody to see.
Thanks. And I'll include my phone number and email address as well, so people have the ability to reach out to me directly if they have questions or comments. So we're very early on in this, and we are at a stage of gathering feedback and trying to take everybody's concerns into consideration, while also being open about the fact that, you know, we intend to improve transit and pedestrian safety here. And there are some proven mechanisms that do work for that. And we think that there's, you know, generally a popular will to do that. So option one, this is a queue jump lane and signals design. This is definitely the lightest touch intervention that we're looking at the moment. There are a couple of benefits here. So after picking up the passengers, a bus can get a green light before other traffic. So your standard New York City traffic light is red, yellow, green. We would use bus priority signals here, essentially holding the private vehicle traffic with a red and then allowing the bus to go around. The bus would have its own signal head, it's essentially a black background with either a white, you know, it's a white vertical or horizontal figure, which signals to the bus driver that they have the right of way. That allows them to pass the congestion. There's a little bit of an extended bus lane for them where they pick up passengers. And then we would look at things like, you know, improving bus shelters or doing off-board ticketing. Same number of travel lanes for cars and trucks as there are today. So there would be no lane reduction, and it would be very minimal adjustment to the existing parking regulations. So when I say this is, generally speaking, this is the lightest touch intervention. This is something that prioritizes buses and then would allow us to do we would do curb extensions at pretty much every intersection. And we are also reopening signal studies along the corridor, because that was one of the pieces of feedback that we got in the initial 3 meetings, was that there are a number of intersections that people would like to see signalization at that are not presently signalized. There are a couple of limitations and challenges with this kind of light touch approach. Buses are still subject to the congestion delays, except at the intersection approaches. So fundamentally, the bus just does go back into traffic where there are not bus stops. There's also issues with things like illegal parking and illegal standing, which we've seen to be problematic in bus lanes and queue jump lanes citywide. Buses do tend to have cameras affixed to them, or we'll put a camera overhead on the lane that will ticket individuals who are illegally standing or illegally parking. But nonetheless, if a vehicle is there blocking access for the bus, it pretty much renders the improvement to be moot. And then curb extensions initially would be done in paint with a follow-up capital build-out, which will allow them to be done in concrete. The reason for that is most of these corners have catch basins, so in order to build them out in more formal materials, we'll have to relocate the catch basins in conjunction with DEP. And that would really be done by an umbrella agency that does capital work, which is DDC. And there would be parking removal that would allow for these curbside jump lanes. So there is going to be parking removal as part of this design.
May I have one question for you within what you're showing here, the schematic, the red areas here?
Sure.
Is that the area that would be, with the parking might be removed, and that's the bus stop area, or it might be a current bus stop, I'm not sure.
We would work off of an existing bus stop. So the plan would essentially elongate those bus stops so that there'd be more room for the bus to go around vehicles that are queued up at a red light.
Okay, I see. Within the bus stop area, within that lane.
Yeah, so for what it's worth, what is denoted in the graphic, the red area is probably already 3/4 no standing anytime for 2 buses to do pickup.
Mm-hmm. So maybe it would be like 3 or 4 parking areas would be taken away, or do you have any idea?
I would guess that per intersection with 2, it would probably be 2 spaces per stop. That would be my guess.
More spaces. Okay. All right. Good.
And then can we move on to option 2, or are there any other questions?
I'm looking in chat right now, nothing. We can go back if we have to, but right now I don't see anything. Okay.
Sure. So for option 2, I'll go through this, and if there's specific questions for 2 or for 3, we can answer those. And then after the fact, if they're just general project questions, I'll speak to those.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so option 2, this is a little bit more of a dramatic intervention. This is the offset bus lane with bus bulb design. Bus bulbs provide extra space for people waiting for the bus. So instead of the bus pulling up to the existing curb, we would extend the sidewalk into, the parking lane where the bus stop is. So instead of the bus pad being the concrete pad where the bus pulls over at present, that would be built out like sidewalk. Again, you would have specific bus shelters, presumably off-board ticketing, things to expedite the pickup and drop off of people at those stations. Those bus bulbs and curb extensions would then shorten the distance for pedestrians to cross 21st Street. That addresses a big concern that we've gotten in terms of, please narrow the street, particularly at crossings, because it's a treacherous street to cross. And a number of the cases that we've seen are people being hit by vehicles traveling on 21st Street proper. It's a wide crossing. It's difficult for those who, it's just not really compliant with all abilities needs that we have in the community. By narrowing the travel lanes to one active travel lane for private vehicles, we would see less speeding by those trucks and vehicles. But the amount of on-street parking would essentially stay the same as it is now. So this option would entail really minimal parking loss. And in fact, considering that, one concept for speeding up the bus would be the consolidation of bus stops, you could reasonably say that we may have a net addition of parking under this design concept. So in that sense, there are elements in the community, people in the community who would, find that preferential, I think. And we've heard that as well. And I think that was one of the earlier comments, was that people were upset about existing parking conditions. Now, a lot of 21st Street is defined by curb cuts and by commercial parking and buildings where people don't own vehicles or have off-street parking. So that's also something that's going to be taken into consideration. The limitations and challenges, offset bus lanes may experience double parking without other measures in place. Same thing that we see with offset bus lanes citywide. People double park, and I think that is, knowing that and having experienced that on other bus projects I've worked on, it's just a testament to the need for additional loading zones, policing, and these buses having cameras affixed to them. But when you have multiple cars that are parked in the lane, it's really only the last car that's going to get the ticket. So, it's something that we struggle with, because on this corridor, there is a lot of illegal parking, be that double parking or people who are openly parking on the sidewalks. Build out of bus bulbs requires a capital project, but we also have a program of plastic bus borders, which could be implemented operationally. There's only one project I've worked in Queens that has those. It's Cypress Hill Street between the Jackie and Cooper Avenue. So if you're ever driving or biking or take the bus out there, you can see a couple of those rubber bus pads. Reduction in traffic capacity. So we are currently collecting data and running the traffic analysis over the summer to see what type of capacity we're talking about. And then talking about, what are the ridership numbers like on this bus pre-pandemic? Because often bus lanes don't need to be 24 hours, 7 days a week. A number of the projects that I've worked on, 75% of the traffic is six hours a day. And so you would have a bus lane, say southbound 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and northbound 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's an option. So that is not the proposal, but the idea right now would be we can look at the hours. It doesn't necessarily entail it being 24 hours a day. Could be, but that's not the standard. There are a couple of locations like that, like Fulton Street in downtown Brooklyn, whereas Fulton Street, when it goes out into the neighborhoods, it turns into an hour regulated bus lane. And then left turn restrictions would be required unless the bus lane is shifted to the curb at intersections. So it already exists, but there are left turn bans on virtually all of the intersections on the corridor. So in terms of limitation, I don't regard that to be a particularly serious one. This area is mostly a grid. I already think that the left turn condition is considered to be kind of a nuisance for those of us who have driven or taken the bus on the corridor. So in that sense, it's not a major overhaul. Do we have any specific questions to option 2?
I just have one question.
Sure.
And then there's a couple others here. These studies, do they take into account, if you're doing them over the summer, the fact that we have reduced traffic because of COVID? People aren't heading into work. Now, they may or they may not head into work more often in the future. We just don't know yet.
Yeah.
But how are you determining traffic given the unique situation we're in now?
Well, we have pre-pandemic counts. So we've figured out a way, and this is, Richard, how we've been able to continue to do the signal and stop sign studies that we've worked on together, right? So we know that citywide, the reduction of traffic is X%, and then, X% in Queens and in Western Queens. And in different areas, we've seen traffic recover to pre-pandemic levels. In some instances, it's gone above pre-pandemic levels. And then in other areas like Midtown, we understand that it's still off significantly in terms of vehicular traffic. Not in terms of, and like pedestrian traffic is off as well. So signals and the traffic engineer that I'm working on with this has come up with an algorithm that allows them to estimate what those counts would be were we not still recovering from the pandemic. So that they have a good idea of what they're looking at right here. So they'll say something like, okay, we're off by 25%. The counts that we're taking are really this based on experience.
Okay. And and I brought this up before. I think the timing issue is something that I think should be really looked at. I think that we should emphasize the rush hour for these studies, but when it's off rush hour, I don't know that the buses are delayed that much during off-peak hours. So I think that's a great facet that should be addressed on this whole thing. And under comments, also, we have comments here on the chat. We don't really have questions. Both of them seem to be saying that the need for parking should not be utilized to make a decision on this. Again, this is something that's debatable, and this is something that I'm sure we'll hear quite a bit on both sides about. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Richard, me and you butt heads quite a deal about everything. I do think we're friends, but we also argue a lot. Parking's not my priority, and I don't think it's the priority of the agency. Security and safety for users is going to be the priority. So even if it's a difficult conversation, it's something that we're always going to focus on what makes people safer. So I think it's important to say that, publicly.
Okay, and from my standpoint, of course, I think that allowing seniors and businesses to prosper is very, very important for society also. So they both have, so anyway, we agree to disagree, but we will continue to go further. Okay?
Agree to disagree. Safe streets are important for seniors as well. And traffic crashes are certainly a concern for seniors, both driving, walking, even biking. So, it's important to us. And I guess we can take further comments after, but do you want to jump to the option 3?
Yes, I think so. Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is, okay, perfect. This is option 3. This is certainly the most aggressive treatment from a transit-oriented perspective. So this is a center running bus lane with bus stop islands. There are a couple of locations in New York City where we've done this, although this is a relatively new treatment in New York. There are many other cities around the world that have done this, and many cities in the United States that have done this. But the Edward R. Grant Highway, or Edward L. Grant Highway up in the Bronx, we did do this design, and it was pretty remarkable. If you are a transit person, it's worth checking out just because it's pretty interesting. We took a very, very wide, kind of old, antiquated roadway and completely resurfaced it and did all sorts of pedestrian and transit safety improvements. And I think it's cool no matter what. If you're interested in construction, it's a cool job. So benefits are that the bus stop islands provide extra space for people who are waiting for the bus. Islands extend into the crosswalk, which would make it safer for pedestrians to cross 21st Street. So we get the pedestrian safety component. And then buses would have their own lane so that they can move faster. So this configuration is very similar to what that BQX proposal was going to be. Essentially, the BQX, one of the design concepts was, run the BQX down the middle of 21st Street, down to Long Island City with this style of, boarding islands. Center running bus lane also avoids kind of the bane of bus lanes in New York City, which is double parked vehicles. Now, it's New York, so I can't guarantee a vehicle won't illegally park there because they seem to illegally park everywhere. But this seems to be the design that's least inclined for that sort of behavior. And then obviously we would see less speeding with the single lane for cars and trucks, because this design, again, it tightens up the roadway. And unlike option one, you take away a lane of traffic for private vehicles. In an instance like this, where you have the bus only lanes running down the median, that I can almost guarantee would be a 24/7 design. That would not, in any context, be a rush hour design. The only vehicles who could use that would be MTA vehicles, and then FDNY and NYPD as needed. So limitations and challenges, you have the reduction of private vehicle traffic capacity. So again, that's what we're doing the traffic analysis this summer for. Left turn restrictions are required. Again, it's kind of superfluous considering that's already in order. And then buses will need to transition to and from center running lanes on either side of the treatment. And then parking removal would be done to allow for the curbside travel lanes. This would be the most dramatic in terms of parking loss, because you're essentially going to take your travel lane and bring that over to the curb when you approach every intersection. So not stating an opinion one way or the other on that, but that's the option. So those are the three things that we're primarily looking at this time. That's what we're doing the traffic analysis for, and that's why I'm here tonight, is to hear how you as members of the community are feeling about these three designs, and or just how you're feeling about the corridor generally. If you think that there are other things that we've missed that we need to be focusing on, whatever it is, I'm eager to take your feedback, and I can guarantee that there will be future public forums and ways for you to voice your opinion on this project. So we're not shovel ready. We're out doing the outreach. We're at step one. So if people are concerned or worked up, we're early on in this thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, looking at the comments, it looks like you do have 100% of the comments that were put in favor of option 3. Okay, so I don't know if you want to go through and read each one, you can.
I'm okay. I'll take it. I don't know that I need to read them out loud, but if you want me to, I'll read everybody's comments. I will say that on the basis of the third meeting that we had at the Community Advisory Board, and Richard, you were there, I would say 90% of the comments that we got at that meeting were in favor of option 3. I know that, your perspective is more oriented towards like option 1 or 2. And I heard after the fact, I heard somebody was an advocate for 2, but right now I'm primarily hearing from people that option 3 is their preference. And I think it's, the comments that I've gotten are more about like a larger forum, desire to see 21st Street operate more like 31st Street and actually be a transit-oriented corridor, because you do have a number of very high-density, mid-rise residential buildings that are on that corridor. It's a little bit of a walk over to the subway. And, this type of bus service, be it a first phase or just a complete project, it takes you down to the F train, and it takes you down to, could at a future date take you down to other, subway stations. And I think it would certainly be convenient for those of us who do take the bus. So that's my take on it. And that's also the take that I've gotten from a number of people who have reached out to us about it.
Okay. Well, do you have also, I think, did you give your email and information?
Oh yeah, let me do that. I'm sending that now.
People that want a chance to comment if they want to.
Just typing it up. Okay. And you have the link for the presentation?
The link, I think it's already in there. I think.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Did you put it up? I think, Victor, you put that in already, right? Let me look here. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. Okay. It was at 7:30 it went in.
Okay, thanks.
There.
So do you want to keep talking about the 21st Street items, or would you like to talk about the other stuff we've been working on?
Why don't we, what time is it now? Why don't we, okay. We can go through a little bit more of some of these questions.
Sure.
Okay, AFC says, have you considered making bus and truck lanes IF? And I'm not sure what he's actually, making bus and truck lanes if there's a lot of complaints about truck delivery being slow. Not sure what he's saying, to convert a lane to just commercial vehicles and buses. Oh, they make the bus lane also for commercial vehicles. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, that is an interesting concept. I haven't thought about that. That's
actually, that's something
that would be appealing for people. I worry only about the only thing I would think is that if we went with the option 2 design, right? If that became a commercial vehicle lane, I guess my only concern would be them doing loading and unloading. So, Richard, this is your long-standing point in Astoria generally, but also on 21st Street, Crescent Street. We need more loading zones. Now, 21st Street would be more tailored towards specific commercial loading zones, or doing a pattern of commercial loading zones as part of the project to try and alleviate that illegal parking condition in the bus lane.
But
yeah, bus and commercial would be interesting, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and even that, sometimes you do find a solution in between two.
Yeah.
This is interesting for me too, because my big concern is business, and also my big concern is that I live here on 21st Street, that right at Astoria Boulevard and 21st Street, constantly southbound from Hoyt, there's always a backup in traffic because there's always a loading truck in front of the EXO apartment building at the corner there. So that reduces everything to one lane, and the traffic backs up to 5 blocks. So it's a real problem when you reduce everything to one lane. I do have my main issue is with one lane is I think that it's too liable to back up, and it also has issues too, because idling cars are not the healthiest thing to have in front of your house. The same either. So
some component of that though is the unexpected bottleneck of it, right? I mean, so McGinnis Boulevard, for example, if you're ever driving on McGinnis going southbound towards the BQE, there's a new apartment building, big 8-story building, every hour there are those FedEx and Amazon trucks, and that is a building that needs to have a residential loading zone. Now, there's a question about whether or not McGinnis really needs 2 lanes of traffic. That's not tonight's discussion, but I think the reason that bottlenecks occur is because people have this unexpected movement. Now, if it was consistently 1 lane of traffic, I don't think that is the same sort of impact as you see as, there's 2 lanes of traffic and then there's 1 lane and then there's 2 lanes. I think the irregularity, the merge condition, that type of stuff is what, causes congestion. That's my view on it, though.
Okay. Well, anyways, I think this is a very interesting idea, AFC. I think it really really is worth considering. Andy Gilbert, also, what's the timeline for this? Whatever treatment is. So
timeline's fast. This is when DOT wants to move on a project, the amount of construction and human resources that can be put to something is pretty remarkable. And so for 21st Street, I mean, we're reaching out. That's what we did kind of an initial spring outreach. This summer, we'll continue to take feedback. In the fall, we're going to work on an outreach process, but we are designing a project over the summer. And we're gathering that data as we design it, and we're seeing what works. We'll have 3 drawings that we're going to look at. But I do think that we're going to go to the community board in the fall, propose it, and then likely be looking at doing some sort of treatment by spring of early next year.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the rest of these questions, and they are all basically for people that are in favor of the option 3. So I think that we can take that under advisement, and we can go to some of the other subjects that you wanted to discuss. But
okay.
Thank everybody for giving their comments too, and they are not being ignored. They're forever digitally inscribed here, and we can refer back to them later.
For what it's worth, those of you who are on and are excited about this or want to talk about it further, please do send me an email. I think anybody who has already contacted me or spoken to me knows I will get back to you. I will talk to you either on the phone, I'll meet you on site, or I'll send you an email back. Or if you're Richard, I'll text you back at late hours. So, so Richard had been a long-term advocate for the 14th Street. Many people in the community were as well, but 14th Street was once a two-way, or it was a one-way with 2 active lanes of traffic. And I think it was last summer, DOT converted that to a new 2-way condition. And in turning it into a 2-way condition, we calmed the street. But in calming it, that also called for things like, now that it's not 2 active lanes of traffic in one direction, it does qualify under the city's engineering rules to look at installing speed humps. And since now there's 2 inputs of traffic coming north and south, the traffic counts increased a little bit such that we were able to secure at least 1 all-way stop approval, and we've got a couple more studies that are still open. So on 14th Street, this is a multi-year project to calm the corridor. The first step was to convert it to a 2-way street. Right after the conversion to it being a 2-way street, we did speed hump studies. I walked the corridor with Richard last July. So we got speed humps approved and in the queue for installation on 14th Street between 30th Avenue and 30th Road, between 30th Road and 30th Drive, between 31st Road and 31st Drive, and between 31st Drive to Broadway. We've got an all-way stop request that I still have active at 14th Street and 30th Road. And we have a new all-way stop, which is approved at 14th Street and 30th Drive. Now, I haven't been over there in a week or 2, so I don't know if that one has gone in yet, but the sign order was issued. So the sign should be installed this summer along with markings. So it's some good stuff. We're excited about it. I think it's a positive development, and it's certainly a good way to humanize the street. There are instances where one-way conversions can be beneficial when you have a narrow street with 2 lanes of parking on either, a lane of parking on either side, and it's kind of narrow down the middle. that can create a side swipe condition and can make it difficult for emergency access and whatnot. So there are certain instances where I advocate for one-way streets, but I pretty much, anytime there's 2 active lanes of traffic going in one direction on a one-way, I think it's worth studying whether or not a 2-way conversion is the best measure, because that can improve safety conditions. It can slow speeds, and then it can open the street up to additional studies for, stop signs, signals, speed humps, even pedestrian bump outs. So first step in a long journey in making that a safer street. You all will see some work. It's not going to be hugely intrusive, but over at the corner of 8th Street and Astoria Boulevard and 30th Avenue, a couple years ago, DOT did a pedestrian safety project where we did some painted bump outs. We finally secured the capital money, so that is going to be done in concrete. So you're going to see concrete crews out there building out painted ped spaces in concrete. We actually wanted to do that last fall, but we were working with the project manager over at NYCHA. There was scaffolding up, and the scaffolding was an impediment to doing the work. We got them to take the scaffolding down, and then somehow another contractor put scaffolding back up for a different contract. So we got back in touch with them. They're removing the scaffolding, so the concrete work should start soon. And then I'm trying to think if we've got anything else. Those are the primary things that I have for you all tonight. But if there's other questions or comments, I want to make sure, just because I didn't address it during the presentation, but Astoria Boulevard and 21st Street is obviously something that we took a lot of comments on, and is just not a great intersection to begin with. But we are incorporating, as part of that 21st Street design, I didn't speak about it tonight in the options, but pedestrian safety improvements at that intersection, and trying to streamline it such that it's easier for people to walk and to reduce the risk of people being hit by turning vehicles or vehicles going through that intersection. So when we come back to the public and we have another public meeting and have a better idea of what that design is going to look like, we'll be gathering feedback on that at a in a more detailed way than we are tonight.
Mm-hmm. We do have one more, actually, a comment from somebody who's not, who doesn't seem to want option 3. They want option 1, and they seems that the most reasonable, in my opinion, since the population of Astoria is constantly increasing, and we need 2 lanes on 21st, as there are many people using 21st Street to take the bridge or to go to the many desirable destinations. Don't we have any other streets with? We don't have any other streets with 2 lanes in both directions. If we do 1 lane, I think it would create a traffic issue with rush hour.
Okay, comment taken, and that is what that traffic analysis is for, that we're conducting.
Mm-hmm. And the other question having to do with 31st Street. Is 31st Street protected bike lane dead? And if it is it possible to upgrade the intersection of Hoyt, Astoria, and 31st Street to make it safer, which is now one of the most dangerous intersections in Astoria?
It is not dead. So for those of you who followed the whole Crescent Street plan, DOT initially, when we talked about Crescent Street last year, put out a statement saying both 31st Street and Crescent Street were going to be proposed and done. We went with Crescent Street. From an outreach standpoint, that was quite a haul. There were certainly, and continue to be, some project components that need to be worked on, which are really challenging, and just, it's a lot of work. But doing that has kind of been my full-time job for about a year now. So 31st Street, we do have a conceptual design. Nothing is drawn yet. It's not signed, at least. I mean, it's preliminarily drawn. This year, we are doing the regular bike lane network, which is a mix of regular lanes and sharrows. It comes out to about 10 miles worth of lanes. Not perfect. There's some really cool components of it, like I think at 39th Ave. We did some good stuff on 23rd Avenue, which got rid of an illegal parking issue. But overall, it's, you know, it's a good guideway on what are relatively calm streets. But 31st Street is not dead, and I don't have an exact schedule, but I think that 31st Street will very likely come back next year. And that will be very interesting when it does.
Okay. Okay. Any other, let's see, other comments? I don't see any other comments right now. You do have the link to the proposed plan or the 3 options, so you can view them further. We have copies of your comments, which John has access to. So what about anything else, little mundane things like filling potholes or light fixtures, things like that? Or there are sections that people may not be aware that DOT is responsible for, like certain sidewalk conditions and things like that?
Sure. So, you know, for those who want to do a little 101 on what DOT does, potholes, that's us. Cave-ins, we'll inspect those. Usually a cave-in is a result of an underground condition. Overwhelmingly, it's a leak because there's generally movement under the ground. I think in my 5 years here, I've taken 3 cave-ins that were Con Ed or Nat Grid. Otherwise, they're almost always DEP, right? It's an old pipe, you know, has a break in it, and then soil starts to get sucked in, and then you start to see the depression in the roadway. If it looks like somebody took a divot out of the roadway, that's a pothole. Either way, potholes, specifically enter it as a pothole. That number will be, it'll be DQ. That goes to the Queens Resurfacing Department. They send a crew out there, they patch it. If you do see a cave-in or, you know, larger depression in the roadway, enter that into 311. You will specifically get a 311 number, and that will go to the Highway Inspection Quality Assurance Unit, shorthand HIQA. HIQA goes out, they inspect, they run a diagnostic test, they figure out what the deal is, and then they issue something called a corrective action request to the party that they've deemed responsible. So if you see a lag, you'll say, all right, I entered a 311, DOT didn't do anything. Well, DOT very likely did do something, which is they went out, we inspected it, and we issued it to the party that's responsible for repair. Pretty much anything underground is not ours. It's going to be overwhelmingly, it'll be Verizon, DEP, Con Ed, or National Grid. And so in those cases, it's up to the utilities to pull a permit. If it's an emergency permit, you know, we just sign off on it, and they will open the street and resolve the issue, and then do a patch. Sidewalks, unless it's like specifically next to a municipal facility, then it would be the responsibility of that agency. And in some cases, DOT trades favors, and we'll do somebody's sidewalk for them in exchange for something else. All of this is non-monetary. It's just, you know, agencies, this is how agencies work. We take care of each other where we can. But typically, you know, if you see a beat up sidewalk next to parks, flag it with parks. Parks will, you know, hire a contractor to repair the sidewalk, or sometimes they have in-house concrete crews who will do it. And then thirdly, if they don't have it, then, you know, sometimes DOT pitches in and we'll do some concrete work for them and patch the sidewalk. Same thing at NYCHA. I think at NYCHA, DOT does those sidewalks. We've done a couple of flag repairs over there. But typically, if you see a sidewalk, it is the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. If the adjacent property owner, if the sidewalk is in poor condition, is issued something called a notice of violation. The city will only repair those cases in the instance where if there was tree damage in front of a large building, like a tree fell over, we'll do an emergency patch. Or if tree roots have uprooted a sidewalk flag, we'll make that repair, you know, free of cost to the owner. But if it's a smaller thing, you know, a number of people in Astoria live in 1 to 3 unit homes, you'll be issued a notice violation. You can either opt to repair it yourself, or you can opt to just, you know, don't do anything with it. DOT will say, all right, we've got a notice of violation at this house on 14th Street. We send it over to DDC, and they will issue a contract, and that contract will have a list of, you know, typically thousands of addresses on it because they're like multi-million-dollar contracts. They'll do it. They'll count out the square footage, multiply it by the price of concrete at the time of the the work, and then they will add that to your property tax bill. And if that fee is too high for a one-time property tax bill payment, you can contact Department of Finance, or namely, most people contact their council member, their assembly member, their community board. They talk to somebody at Department of Finance, and you restructure the debt over like a 5 or 10 year period. So if you had like a $4,000 sidewalk bill, which would be pretty high, that would be a lot of sidewalk work. You could structure it so it was $400 extra per year on your New York City property tax bill. Lighting's DOT typically. I know basically there's two types of major lighting issues that occur. It's standard repair, which is my favorite because we can go out there and just change the bulb, and foundation repair, which is my least favorite, which means that the base is corroded and the wires are corroded, and we have to take down the entire light. We have to depower it, and then that's Con Ed, and then we have to jackhammer the base, remove the base, pour a new base, get a new base into metal base on top of the concrete foundation, have Con Ed pull the wires, install the light, and then light it again. So that when you say, oh, DOT hasn't fixed this light in a year, well, it's probably a foundation problem. It's not that DOT isn't aware of it. It's not that DOT doesn't care. Lighting's pretty good, actually. They're a good unit. They're productive, but they will they'll go out there and they'll run a diagnostic test. So if they can fix it quickly, they'll fix it quickly. They're good about that. But with the foundation repairs, it's a little more challenging. So if that's the case and you report one of those to me, I'll always tell you what the real story is and what the real repair timeline is like. But a foundation repair all in a couple of months, I would, more than a couple of months. I don't mean couple as in 2, typically 6. And then I'm trying to think what else. I mean, we do signal studies, we do speed hump studies, we do these street improvement projects, which is what the 21st Street thing is. Half of my job is kind of the maintenance and just making sure that things work the way that they're supposed to, and scheduling out what we're going to do in terms of resurfacing, right? Because each board has an allocated number of miles. We have to prioritize those lane miles within those boards. We see what's an arterial, what's a tertiary, and we allocate those miles on that basis. And then obviously DOT has limited numbers of man hours in terms of night crews who do arterials versus, daytime, tertiary crews who do the side streets. If it's residential, primarily residential, we'll mill and resurface during the day. If it's a commercial bus or truck corridor, mill and resurface happens at night. So like 21st Street, nighttime, 14th Street, daytime.
Okay, very good. One last thing I want to bring up, and this is actually just a little reminder. There is an area that's going under a lot of renovations now. It's on 19th Avenue near Lester Creek. And there's an area at the end of 19th Avenue where they're building the new Wildflower Studios. That's it's a section which actually there was a fatality a number of years ago, about 3-4 years ago, where 3 young people were killed. And it has a Jersey barrier. It basically the area needs to be cleaned up and somehow worked with. It's a multi-agency area. So I just asked that DEP is involved, the Parks Department's involved, I think that DOT is involved, the Fire Department, the NYPD. It's like you said, working between agencies. This is a situation where we would love to see it improved. This neighborhood is going through a lot of changes. And I think that the community board actually is taking a lead on this. And Florence has done a great job trying to coordinate the activity here for the cleanups. So what we can do, and also the developer Wildflower has said that they would also contribute to re-looking at this space to see what they can do to make it both more safe and also better in terms of people being able to utilize it better and utilize the area around the creek and the park and everything, make it more visitor friendly. So I hope that you take that back, and I hope that you reach out to Florence and you guys work with with her to get this done, because I think it's an important project. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So any other questions? I don't see. I think that we've pretty much gone through. We have pretty much an idea of what's going on. John, thank you for coming by. This has been great.
Thanks, Richard. Good to see you. Been a couple of days.
Great. And I appreciate everybody joining us today. We will be taking vacation now, a couple months off. We'll be back in the fall. Hopefully, as I said, we're trying to work on putting together a hybrid, both online and live meeting. We'll be giving you more information as we go along and we determine what we're going to do. And again, it's been a very interesting year, to say the least. But it's glad to see that we're all coming out and we're starting to, again, life is starting to come back to normal. So that's great. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us and see you in September.